Okay, everybody. I want to thank you very much for your time today. Today, I have a brief introduction into a new technology that we're coming out with. For those who have been partners of Fanvil for a long time, this is just another enhancement that sort of takes our management system to the next level. But before I get into that, I just want to get into a little bit of house cleaning before I get started. In the handout section of your GoToWebinar client, I've uploaded two documents. One document is the user manual, which for those who want to go really deep into the understandings of this, you can go ahead and download the user manual in the handout section. And in addition to that, there's also a soft PDF copy of this presentation as well. So as I'm speaking, you can download it, you can take notes if you want to, but those two things are made available. Everyone on this webinar will be muted for the beginning part of this webinar. And at the end, if you have any questions or during the middle of the webinar, feel free to go ahead and post your questions on the question box that you might have. And I'll be more than happy to hang on and address as many as I can. For those that I cannot address, I'll try to work with you one-on-one to get your answers all set. So having said that, my name is Tommy Lee. I'm the VP of Sales for North America for Fanvil, and I'm really happy to join you today, this afternoon or this morning, to be able to introduce the new Fanvil Management Cloud System. Now, to give you a little bit of history, for many, many years, Fanvil has issued a downloadable version, which means that you can go to our download support website, and there you can actually download a management server, which really does the bulk of what this cloud service does, but I'm going to get into the details later on from our website. But the issue there was you had to basically have a server in your own headquarters, or perhaps have even a server at the customer site. And that typically posed some problems. And what we did was we've taken the next step and being able to provide a cloud-based service. We're working in conjunction with a very reliable cloud service platform to give you that high level of concurrency calls and concurrency hits so that you end up with a very reliable system moving forward. Now, having said that, there are a couple of things that I'm going to explain about how does one get access to this device management system and everything. And the goal of this session is to really kind of give you a high level overview. Now, following this overview, it's going to be succeeded by a series of how-to sessions. So this is the one session that's going to kind of give you a high-level overview, but then following this presentation, what we're going to do there is then to give you the ability and have demonstrations as well as perhaps video, giving you an idea of how-to sessions. We're going to look at the most popular configurations. How do you set up specific channels? How do you set up, particular accounts, set up groups, and ultimately provide the ability to upload and download configuration files. For those veterans who actually are used to our management system or other management systems for that matter, this may be a little bit of a review, but for those that are brand new, this will be something that might get you a great recipe in being able to take you from where you are today into fully functioning in our management system moving forward. The great news is that we have actually gone live in production effective June 7th of this month, so that we're going to go live, and I'm going to give you all the details of what it takes for you to go ahead and be a part of this journey. Okay, let's go through the system overview. Now, one of the things I'm going to actually go over is that some of the differences of this system versus the former system. And now I'm going to focus on two items. One is provisioning, and then one is basically overall management and monitoring. In the segment of provisioning, one's going to have to be very careful about considering what type of PBX systems do you actually adopt, because when you manage a device, many PBX systems that are out there actually have their own provisioning servers. So one will have to decide which one do you actually want to use first. There are a few out there that don't really mind having two, but I would find that the bulk of them really do have pull-down menus where you have a list of all qualified devices, and you could just go ahead and click them, and all of a sudden you could work on them provisioning. But you could also use this tool, FDMCS, to actually do the monitoring, the functions, actually doing a lot of push devices to really sort of take it out of that specific template to procure devices and everything before you put it on the PBX network. Now, some of the things that are really unique between this system and some of the old system is that the new cloud-based system has automatic connection to what we call our FDPS, or what the market is known for as the RPS system. This is basically a redirection service that allows the actual phone and many of these devices that we show down here to really, when they wake up, they're going to go ahead and take a look at the cloud and say, which owner do I belong to? Which configuration server do I need to go? They're either, if there is no configuration server based on this RPS setting, then all of a sudden it'll just come up as a standard device and you could program it as you wish. Now, for those that are willing to do a management device, either through a PBX or our management system, then it'll either point to either one so that you can have that classic out-of-the-box experience in deploying. There are lots of advantages in doing that. So let's go over that, because once you go ahead and download something and upload something here with FDMCS, it'll automatically place that file and sync up to your automatic reprovisioning redirection service automatically. Whereas in the old system, when you download, you had to do that manually and coordinate the two. So we've taken that step out of the system so that we keep a more seamless item. So be careful when you're looking at this. You might run into conflicts if you're already working into PBXs. That's something you could work out. Let's talk a little bit about the variances in devices here. Now, Fanvil is a major manufacturer of business phones, and in the business phones, we really divided into two different segments. One is the business phones here that we actually have what we call our X series. And in the X series, that's something that we focus in on that really looks at really either the business or even the home office, that people want to deploy systems at the home. But we also have a specialized phone offering for just the hospitality market. The hospitality market has very specific requirements that sort of fit outside the classic phone, and we actually built a set just to handle that specific market itself. In addition, we also have door access units, which actually contain RFID key fobs and things like that allow employees to go ahead and go by and be able to gain access to whatever offices in the front. And we've actually found a big trend in many people who only deploy phones for a living now begin to expand their solution offering and offer these particular SIP devices. Now, keep in mind that all these devices that we're showing are all SIP endpoints. So if you upgrade it up to a SIP PBX, likely all of these systems would be fully compatible with your PBX as well. We have both indoor stations as well here, as well as outdoor stations. And given the global pandemic that we have just gone through, we've seen an actual uptake in the interest of people having, free entry and being able to enter systems just using a key fob. In addition to that, we have SIP intercoms, which have video, no audio, for all different environments, from indoor commercial to really ruggedized industrial units. And so this is just a really small snapshot of the type of segments that we have. And then last but not least, we have what we call SIP public addresses. Now, this is really a gateway that we have called the PA system, really our PA2, that enables the provider or the integrator to be able to convert anything that was analog before into a SIP interface. So I'll give you an example, like in a case of upgrading an elevator or a parking lot, gateway, you can convert that to operate with SIP, because what this does is provides basically a SIP interface that has an analog output that gives you the ability to convert any of the things that was analog. And the great news about this FDMCS system, it allows you to really manage this whole variety under one roof moving forward. Now, let's kind of get into some of the more details about what this can provide. Now, to top it off, we actually have everything that's summarized. We've made some great enhancements to the dashboard here. I'll have some more exploded views, but really what it boils down to is that now for people that are coming on brand new, there's going to be no upfront server or hardware cost to kind of get your feet wet into seeing what this is all about. In the past, you had to go out and pick up either a Linux or a Windows server environment to download. And by the way, you could still download that server today to kind of give you an idea of what we do. But now you have sort of an option between which system you want to go ahead with. But I'll get into more of the details between those two systems. But it really gives you a great remote management system so that should you decide to offer services, to your clients, this is a great way to go ahead and figure out the faults that happen in advance before you actually get a trouble call. And that way you can be in front of the curve before you get that trouble ticket. And I'll talk more about alarms moving forward. Here are some of the differences between the new FDMCS as well as the old FDMCS. Here's a site that we have here that you can actually download on our site today. Now, for all of these things, you're going to have this thing that's really uploaded up in the cloud, which really now gives total equivalent access to everybody that's out there, and that you don't necessarily have to worry about where do you host your own server. So that's a great news for those people who do it. For those who are already on board with the old FDMS system, we're going to continue to maintain it, but many of our future enhancement and improvements, which I'll talk about later in some of the slides, are all going to go towards here. So very often, many people still use our existing system to do basic deployment, but many of our enhancements I'll talk to. Now, many of those enhancements may not be applicable to you, so you could still stay with the old system. So we're going to have to entertain many different models that people are going to have. And so what we're going to do here is really get into how do you get access to this link system, and that's a little bit of a change in how we actually do that, and we roll it out to make it really easier for you to get on board. Obviously, because we're on a reliable cloud system, many of the security aspects will be increased as well. So let's talk about a lot of the different projects that people have. Here's a classic case where you have many different projects that happen in different locations. Very often I hear of a model where a provider might be centrally located in a particular region, and then you might have third-party installers on the outside. Well, in that case, you may be able to sort of pre-configure everything on the FDMCS system once you get it up and running and loaded. Then what you can do then is to send out those specific configured units into those third-party applicants that can go ahead and deploy those units out in those remote locations, and you can see those units as they come up online and actually monitor whether or not they're actually functioning or not. Now, the great news is that for those who actually have third-party channels, you can actually set up sub-channels within the cloud-based system for managing, because what you can do is you can set up one level which you can manage groups and different customers' locations, but then you can also take a look at how you actually, deploy your systems, because what this does, it gives you the ability that when you procure, say, 100 phones, and you could take out of the 100 phones, allocate 60 for one location and 40 for another. You can actually do that in advance and then just sort of configure that remotely so that once they go ahead and deploy and send it out, you could then have those phones or devices pop up in the configuration that you want to do. The hardest part is getting that first initial thing done, but once you understand how to deploy one phone, then at that one phone you could take that template and modify it for all the different projects that you might have. And again, here, this goes beyond our phones, which is our most popular endpoint. And this also expands both into intercoms, door access units, as well as any other devices that I mentioned earlier. This is just a quick flow diagram to give you an idea of what actually happens. For those that are relatively new, saying, wow, what is this about all of this redirections? And you could consider 3 devices. We have the actual end device here that you actually configure and deploy to the field. Then we have the management server located here, which is what I'm talking about today. And then we have the redirection service here. And once you go ahead and actually load or pick up your device, you can actually take that device and load it onto this system, which will automatically put it on the redirection service. Now, keep in mind that we work closely with our distribution channel throughout the world. And very often, some of our clients decide to say, you know what, I want our distributors to go ahead and pre-configure our devices before they get shipped out. That is great, because in that case, in the new model for this cloud-based system, you can actually procure this system from your distributor as well, so that they can go ahead, provide this level of procurement, and grab these devices, procure them, ship them to you, and then you can take your link and self-manage it. And they don't necessarily, the distributor has a level of privacy which they don't necessarily see all of the items and the configuration files that you need to do. So you can control that level of privacy between you two, and be able to say, all right, this is what I want to do, so that, you know, they'll do what they'll have to do to procure the devices for you, send it to you, but ultimately you would end up having ultimate control and being able to allocate those devices to either your subgroups or sub-channels that you decide to set up. So once that is set up and then the FDPS happens, then all of a sudden, as the device wakes up on the second channel, it'll go out to this FDPS. It's sort of when you wake up out of bed, you look up in the ceiling and they say, all right, I'm going to wake up and come into the new day. What they do here is they wake up, look at this redirection server and say, who actually owns me at this point? You could either be a standard device that anybody can configure as they wish, but if you happen to be on the server, then you could either be owned by our management cloud server, or perhaps the PBX server that has their own cloud-based server that they will control the provisioning. So this really gives feedback to the device that says, you are owned by XYZ company, or you're just a standard unit or a blank piece of paper getting ready to program as you see fit. Then at that point, then there's a bi-directional challenge. In this case, it shows between our cloud-based management system and the device, and it will actually take its instructions from here, being able to monitor moving forward. So those are really the sequences that actually happen in the background as we go forward. Now, looking at the different closer look at the actual dashboard, you can actually see in a quick view here different device settings. You can tell whether you actually have devices that are online, that are offline, and as well you can actually have monitor specific accounts. You know, you can actually see accounts that you see here, see the device levels, those that are in the yellow that are sort of offline, or perhaps those that are inactive. And if you've actually deployed cases where phones are inactive and all of a sudden the count goes up, you can raise all types of alarms, which I'll get into later on, and actually see that these problems happen before you get the trouble call. And of course, you could also manage organization and sites. What we do here in organization and sites is that depending on what your business model is, most of our providers actually procure the devices as a standard device from our distribution channel, and they go ahead and deploy it out into the field, which they can go ahead and configure different groups, clients, and customers, or even sub-channels to provide this level of visibility, because many of them take our devices and actually, you know, provide a high-level view to see just the minimum customer name as well as the device configuration, but nothing more than that. Not even device configuration, just the devices that are deployed at these particular sites, but then only the subgroup category can manage all the level of details that they can go ahead and see moving forward. So you can tell that this has really been designed to sort of fit your schedule and to fit the way your business model works today, and it doesn't go the opposite way. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, security is a real big deal. You know, we actually have a very reputable cloud service. In our case, it's really on the Alibaba cloud service platform, which is really equivalent to the United States Amazon cloud platform, which is what many of the huge applications that are based in the cloud are based on. So you can guarantee that all of the certification and, you know, certificate validation will all be valid on what we call a high concurrency system that we're coming forward. And oh, by the way, we are providing this services to everybody free of charge. So, we understand that we want to be able to differentiate ourselves and be able to say, okay, we want to offer this and provide this level of manageability to our partners so that, you can go ahead and see our value add to your business. Now let's go ahead and see, what do I need to get an account, from Fanvil? Well, at the first point, what we've actually done is being able to say, you can go ahead, and for those that are on FDMS system, we're going to automatically send them a link, and that you should be able to receive your link. If you don't receive it and you're interested in maybe exploring to move to this cloud-based level, you can go ahead and activate the link. One warning that I wanted to mention to you, that once you get this link, it will only be active for a certain period of time. I think off the top of my head, it may be 48 hours or something like that. Once that 48 hours goes by, then the link would be invalid, and then you may need to manually request another one. But if you get it, all you need to do is then just define your username and password, and then automatically be linked into your new account, and you can begin getting rolling. Now, how do I go ahead and do that? You can actually do that by contacting your local Fanvil sales manager, and they will send you a link in your particular region. Or what we're doing this time is we're actually arming many of our distributors to be able to hand this link out to you, so that you don't have to wait a day or two to get things set up and getting the keys going back and forth, so that you can go ahead and get started as soon as possible. These is just a partial list of some of the devices that we have listed here. Now, keep in mind, many of the listing that we actually have on the system goes beyond what is listed here. Some of the devices that we might have here it's just a snapshot of what we have recently that are on the system today. And beyond here, the actual system will end up growing that'll go beyond this list. In fact, there are probably components in there today that are not listed on here, but this is just to give you an idea, to show you all of the different categories of devices. We have our entry-level IP phones, as well as our mid-range to high-end Android phones, the industry equipment, meaning the door access units and intercoms, as well as our hotel phones. And all of these things can be managed through the system, and that you can be assured that we're going to cover all of our solutions under one blanket. Now let's get into this. As I mentioned earlier, this is just sort of an overview that gives you a very top-level overview, and this is the one session that we're going to have to do that. But what we have intended moving forward is that the latter part of this June, we're going to be introducing a variety of series of how-tos. In other words, we're going to probably concentrate 3 or 4 of these items at a time. Channel management, organizational management, those things that we find popular in how to get yourself configured on these systems. And we're going to create a how-to video menu that we're going to probably archive and give you access to, so that you can go back, for those people who are just getting their feet wet, can actually see what's happening, and that you can have sort of a reference point. And we'll end up building a library, 3 or 4 at a time, because we realize that many people have a variety of questions, and we'll do 3 or 4 at a time moving forward, every like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so, covering different items. Now, keep in mind, if you don't see something that's on this particular list, feel free to work with your local Fanvil sales manager and advise him or her the new topics that you would like to see, or you could actually send your ideas to sales or support. And given the majority of people that come in and feel that we have a specific topic that we're missing, we'll go ahead and actually provide that and put that on the menu as well. Keep in mind, all this is to really service you, our partners out there that decide to operate with Fanvil, and to be able to go ahead and make your business a lot easier moving forward. So we look forward to hearing your feedback if some of the things that you're looking for are not listed here. Now let's talk about account rules. We're going to have the ability up front to be able to manage. This is really meant for what we call, super administrators, agents, service providers, distributors, integrators. We've come to realize that many people out there, although we all tend to deploy SIP products to the marketplace, Everybody has got a different business model that they work with. Some decide to have distributors provide that level of integration and service upfront for them. Some actually take the standard device and actually procure the models themselves, and they either deploy it on their own or they fan it off into other third parties, which actually they can go ahead and manage. And some maybe just be doing a pass-through. It depends on what kind of business you do. You could set up those specific channels and give your sub-channels that level of privacy so that they can go ahead and manage these items that they go ahead and buy from you, so that only you get a very high level chart of who your clients are, as well as just the list of products that they buy. But then your sub-channels will be able to get control of their configuration, all of the different feedbacks, the logos, all of those things will be private to them. And then you can go ahead and manage those specific accounts. So you have primary channels and subordinate channels, that really you can control and actually see and list out here that you can do. Of course, you can go ahead and actually take these procurement things, upload the import devices where you can actually take all the MAC addresses that you might procure, and then you can allocate them. Some are done at the distribution level, some are done at the second tier provider level, or even through sub-distribution, etc. All of these models are hopefully entertained in this particular model that we have done here. Now let's talk about order management. This talks a lot about getting into importing devices. You could assign equipment to users so that at the top level, you might just be able to buy all of this equipment. So you can go ahead and procure, 50 phones from, distributor A, and then you could take those 50 phones and allocate 20 to one location and 30 in the other, depicted basically in the flow diagram that I showed earlier, and you can go ahead and fit that model. On the other hand, some might have our partners drop ship into particular sites. So you can go ahead and modify these things to go ahead and fit your specific needs, while in addition providing that level of privacy so that you don't allow other third parties to really get into your business, is what it does moving forward. Then you have organization management. This is one of those things where it makes really management easier. Again, this talks about privacy protection, where as you go ahead and assign these things, we want to make sure that the top level person only sees basically the name of you and basically the components that you actually have and procure. This is really public information that they have anyway, just looking at your order history. But then yet when it comes to actual configuration files and things like that, that is something that the top level person will not have access to, that you can go ahead and see and manage on your own. Now, if you do want to provide access, the only way to do that is by providing them your username and password, but that's something that you can work with depending on your relationship with your particular channel moving forward. But the good news is that we actually organize this so that you have that top level management moving forward. Again, this talks about in this management, you can actually assign user permissions. Not only can you define the actual channel, but you can actually give specific users only the right to reset or to monitor devices, or you can provide push capabilities where you can actually push config files and firmware updates to specific people. So not only can you organize management, but you could also assign roles so that they can go ahead and say, no, I just want them to go ahead and take a look at the health of the device. Should something happen, then let me know. I'll go ahead and manage it at a top level. The good news is that you have that level of manageability moving forward, given the particular role assignment that you have, to run your specific business. And then ultimately, it talks about faster device configuration. You can actually have here where you can actually configure the config file management. For those who are actually procure, all of the phones, all of the SIP phones that you see out there, especially in our case, the Fanvil SIP endpoints, they all have a configuration file, which really tells them what time zone do I work in, what type of extensions do I have, how do I configure my specific buttons, all of these units, what icon do I need to display on my phone to be able to see all that, are all controlled within the specific configuration file, and they have to be libraried somewhere so that this configuration file could be updated and modified for all the particular clients that you might have. And we're going to get into that as part of the how-tos as we do moving forward. they'll be part of the how-to series as we go ahead and provide that, so that you can go ahead and manage all of your Mac configurations, showing all the different orgs based on device management. And you can also control timing so that you can actually do an immediate push. But most often, very, very often, people will end up pushing these devices. This is especially true if the device is already in production. You want to do that during midnight or in the early morning hours when people are sleeping. Or on the other hand, if you have devices that are just deploying on a brand new site, you can do that real time by going ahead and setting out any configurations for particular sites. So these are all basically under your control under the device management screen. And obviously you have maintenance. For those who are used to working with these management systems, these alarms can go ahead and give you an idea either through email, or you can push these messages through whatever IT websites, and you control how you want to be notified. You can minimize it for those who have way too many emails at the beginning, or only access those alarms that go critical for you. And that's something that you can go ahead and define on how you want to be notified here. You can have it done via email, or we have a specific alarm inbox that you can go ahead and take a look at, so that you can get either remote access through email notifications and letting you know what's going on in your specific network. Now, future development, this is something that we're actually putting together moving forward, that what we decided to do is to access APIs. We've gotten a lot of feedback from third-party units saying, we've developed this interface that we would love to do that. So we're actually in the midst of putting together a standard API that we're going to share with our partners so that they can customize this to work in their specific systems. We tried to be as flexible as possible, but allows you now to have this API so that you can allow this to work with whatever system that you're working with today. In addition to that, we also allow more support management functions over control devices. Our access control devices are getting bigger, and that we provide sort of a key that enables you to be able to take advantage of their existing RFID input moving forward, or you could put in a brand new device as you go, because in those two scenarios, very often the company themselves have everybody loaded in their database, and you want to be able to provide hooks into their database. Or we want to be able, for those that are starting brand new, we could provide enhancements here that allow you to go ahead and program and perhaps do some minor management of these access key devices that allow you to go ahead and access. And of course, we have the hospitality environment. Every hotel has their standardized, management system, and we want to provide, hooks into those particular management systems. So these are all items that are in the work process, and we'll provide a schedule for those. And we encourage you to kind of hop on. I'm going to provide links to our social network so that as these updates come online, we'll provide notices to our social network so that you are notified on these things as we move forward, going ahead. Speaking of the connections, here are the units that we actually have for sales and support. For those who actually have an idea that's not covered in the sort of the how-to sessions moving forward, you could send an email to either one of these. This will actually give access globally to all of the Fanvil management team, and just identify which region you belong in so that that person can take charge and being able to see your specific request. And here's our access to our Link social network to kind of give you an idea about how to go ahead and gain access to many of our solutions moving forward. This is really sort of the brief overview that I have, and I look forward to working with you and really getting your feedback, as well as to seeing what type of inputs that you want to see us provide out there in the how-to section. And so those are going to be sort of done periodically in those different series, and we're going to do something similar like that, covering 3 or 4 topics at a time, giving you the opportunity to address whatever questions we have. So that's all I have for now. I'm just going to move into the Q&A section. Moving forward, I'm just going to leave this here as a contact information. I'm going to go into the question box. So anybody that might have questions moving forward, feel free to go ahead and put questions. And for those who want to stay behind, you can go ahead and listen to these questions if you wish and have time. And for those who don't, I want to thank you very much for your time and your valuable day today. So let me go into the question box as I'm speaking. Here are a couple of questions that I see here. Let me see. The downloadable version 2X, is the 3.x available for a premise install? The answer is yes. We're actually offering this as a cloud service that you could download in the cloud. What we're also going to do is that for those major providers out there that actually have a downloadable version of this, we're going to actually title it sort of the enterprise version, where we'll work on a case-by-case basis and saying, okay, here is something that you want to go ahead and make a major enhancement so that you can go ahead and install this in the cloud. There are some major providers out there that says, no, I don't want my system to be managed by a third party. I need to have everything standalone. If you happen to be in that situation, contact your Fanvil manager and we'll go ahead and try to make arrangements so that, that will work with you on a case-by-case basis so that we can work with you to provide that download feature so that you can download it on your own server as well. So not only do we do it on our cloud, if you like that on-service platform, we'll work with you in being able to offer you these tools as well, and so that you can entertain that. Where is the service hosted in which country? It is actually all of this, the initial cloud service is hosted by what we call the Alibaba Cloud, I believe. And what that is, that's an Asian-based cloud service. It's really equivalent to the Amazon cloud service, which is most of the cloud services that are offered by the major applications that are out here, at least in the United States. But these are the major cloud platforms that are put on. So, these are what we call high reliable items that are based up in Asia, and that's where it's actually based. Are the phones out of the box configurable for FDM? Yes, they are. In fact, when the phones actually come in the box themselves, you can actually use things like a barcode scanner. You can actually scan these codes, which will ask for the MAC address of these things, and you can actually contain all of these MAC addresses on a Excel file. Now, no one's going to go ahead and enter these MAC addresses manually. That would be crazy, But what you want to do is be able to scan this in, and you could put 550 or 5,000 phones if you want to, all in one Excel spreadsheet, and provide a mass import of all of these devices into the template, and that will automatically sync up all of these devices, and they will belong to your organization should you decide to work with our management system going backwards. Okay, the third one is, I have already account for CS and did first test, but there are many unusable strings that are shown. Yeah, for those, we actually had a handful of cloud-based services that were test accounts. Now, for those test accounts, when we went live on Monday, June 7th, we actually deleted many of these quote-unquote beta test accounts to make room for what we call our initial production. So now what we've done is that for those items that are, basically in the beta or testing phase, we've taken your input and we've actually implemented some of these changes onto the now production phase. And we'll go ahead and continue on, producing this production phase moving forward. For those who were on the early beta things, there might have been issues that you might have, or you may have had your, account data, removed, but that was really intended for testing purposes. So now in production, all of these devices will be valid moving forward. Let's see, there are some more questions here. Are the i2, i31s, and I supported? I already have, okay, they talk about Chinese dashboard. This device is actually now supported in 2 languages. It's supported as a Chinese dashboard as well as an English dashboard. So if you actually do that, some of the links that you might get should be in English, and you might be able to just click on it, and what you'll get is a direct conversion over to English. So it's supported under 2 languages. It's Chinese and English. Are the i21 and 31s supported? You may be able to take a look at that matrix that I provided. That provides a good glance into one of those iTunes. If not, I'd suggest maybe getting on board with the cloud-based system and just go over to the devices. From there, you'll actually see the pull-down menu of all of the devices that are done as well. Again, this is a dynamic list, so that this dynamic list will end up evolving as we introduce new devices into the marketplace. So this is just sort of a snapshot moving forward. Again, this is all that I have for now. I guess the questions, okay, is there an API for FDMCS available? This is something that's sort of ongoing. As I mentioned in several slides ago, is that we're putting together an API that we will provide to the marketplace. I highly suggest you sort of get on the social media for Fanvil, because that's where we provide a lot of our updates and news, as well as updates to our product lines. And once this API becomes available, I might know a little bit more in some of the how-to sessions that follow this session, so that you can do that, and we'll make an announcement once this API available. Is it now? I haven't seen any information on that, but once it's available, I'll go ahead and actually provide that date to you. So again, this was meant as sort of an overview session, and that as we move forward in time, I'm going to provide information to you on all of those aspects, whether it's an API, improvements in our access code management, or hospitality improvements, etc., as we do moving forward. Okay, I think the level of questions are slowing down, but should a question arise after this webinar, I totally welcome you to go ahead and send your questions over to sales or support, depending on whether or not your category is listed as business or technical. We'll go ahead and try to provide answers to you as much as possible. Again, the technology that we use to deploy these devices is really TR69. That's the level of technology that we use to deploy all of our endpoints. That's the same technology that we use here. Most of the enterprise multi-service providers, those that provide content, manage your endpoints in your home, your office, they all use TR69 as well to sort of manage all these devices, and we mimic that technology to manage all of these endpoints as well. So you could be assured that the technology that we use will also be sort of the ones that are used by major service providers out there. Again, I want to thank you very much, everybody, for your time and your valued time, and I want to wish everybody a healthy life moving forward. And again, I look forward to seeing you again in the how-to sessions. Look back in the preliminary section of how-tos. Again, if the topic that you're looking for doesn't exist, let us know, because we are here to basically provide this free service to you. And again, thank you very much for your time, and look forward to talking to you again. Take care. Bye-bye. For those who came in a little bit later, I want to let you know that we have a handout section that actually has our user manual as well as our soft copy of this presentation. Feel free to go and download that user manual or handout for your personal reference. That'll give you an immediate deep dive as to some of the more granular features that are offered under FDMCS. Okay? Again, have a great day and wish you well. Bye-bye.